Welcome to Real Estate Real Talk with me, Skyleigh. I'm a realtor, coach, and founder of Forever Kamloops and Forever Kelowna Real Estate Groups and the creator of Elevation Real Estate, the realtor coaching platform. After nearly a decade in this industry, I've built a business that gives me more freedom, more income, and more time with the people I love. And now I'm here to help other realtors do the same. This podcast is for agents who want to build a thriving real estate business without burning out. We talk about scaling smart and building systems so you can buy back your life, because life shouldn't feel like all work and no play. And if you're a buyer or seller tuning in, consider this your backstage pass. You'll hear unfiltered conversations with top agents and industry pros, giving you the same insights we share behind closed doors. Knowledge is power, and the more you know, the better you can advocate for yourself and work with someone who truly has your back. Let's get real. I don't even know how to introduce you though, because you're one of my best friends. So it's weird because I'm going to give the professional breakdown on my very good friend, Jamie Ushko. And then I'm going to tell you guys a backstory as to how we actually became friends, because I think it's the best kind of way how you can become friends with somebody. So number one, I am so proud of you because you are award-winning mortgage broker with Mortgage Architect. And I remember when you won this award, and I was so proud of you. I remember you sending me pictures of you getting your award because you got the Award of Excellence in 2022. And that was throughout all of Canada, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And that was your first year in the business.
Yeah, it was my first year. It's a Newcomer Award, so it's meant for new people.
The best newcomer agent. But still, that's insane, especially for all of Canada. Absolutely wild.
It was wild. It was really exciting for me and for you. I know.
I was very proud of you. Still very proud of you. And you are obviously wildly good at your job. I know that I toot your horn all the time, but the fact that you won that award and that you have so many 5-star reviews on Google, all of the clients that I send you, which is everybody, adores you and loves you. You have an amazing problem-solving skills, and you are licensed throughout BC and Alberta, which is also impressive, having multiple licenses across Canada. Other than that,
I was going to say, as with this job, in real estate, it's all about relationships and partnerships. And I wouldn't be the award winner broker if it wasn't for the relationships that I have with you, for example. Like it's so important in this industry to find your people and work with those people and the communication, and it makes the client experience so much better. And yeah, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing and doing a good job at it if I didn't have partnerships like I have with you. So I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you. The backstory though, as to how we became friends, because again, I think it's a really cool story. And the fact that we just fell into each other's laps is that however many years ago, I was just helping a client, and I run into different mortgage brokers and like mortgage reps all the time, right? Like people have their own referrals to lenders and brokers that they use. And so this one set of clients that I had was using you as a mortgage broker. I had never heard of you before. And the experience was amazing. And I remember you and I having a number of phone conversations to help these clients buy their next home. And through those conversations, I remember you and I being stuck on the phone talking for so long. And that we were like, we have to go for coffee. We have to go for coffee. We have to go. And like life was just so busy. We didn't get a chance to go for a while. But yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those organic friendships. Like I said, it's like the best way. And I always feel like if you put yourself in situations with like-minded people, that you will end up making new friendships. Because I hear this a lot where people have a hard time making friends as adults. But I think you don't put yourself in enough situations where you're going to meet like-minded people. Because if you are just with the like-minded people, then it's not going to be that hard for you to make friends. So anyways, I'm grateful that you fell into my lap. I'm glad that
Me too. And especially I think it's hard, we're just so obsessed with our work and what we do too.
Yeah.
So it's helpful that we're both in the same industry, but not in a competitive way. So we can like bounce ideas off of each other and ask questions. And yeah, it's been good. And it's funny because when I first got started in the industry, I asked people like in my zone of influence, like neighbors, things like that, friends, who they'd recommend as a realtor because I wanted to connect with people that people recommended. And your name came up multiple times. And one
Are
person
you
had,
telling me that?
yeah, so yeah, you still don't know who they are, but anyway, that's another story. But yeah, so I always had you like on my radar of somebody that I wanted to work with and approach, but I don't like just, I feel like I have to work, I have to prove myself before I reach out to people and say, hey, do you want to work with me kind of thing. So it worked out nice that we worked together and it went well. So it was just easy after that.
Manifested it. Manifested our conversation. All of a sudden, our mutual client connected us, which I love.
Yeah.
And which actually brings me to one of the points that I know that you and I said that we wanted to talk about is relationship building and how having those connections with people in the industry can obviously help your own business as well. Because I call you all the time and pick your brain about so many things. And having somebody with the knowledge for different aspects of the transaction, and then for me, even just remembering it for myself so that when I am going out with those clients or other clients and being able to talk intelligently about different things has been so impactful for my business. And I think that it probably is the same for yours. I don't know how many other agents do that though. So I'm curious to know, are other agents like that, like where I love the information and that give my 2 cents on different aspects of getting a mortgage? And yeah, I'm curious to know because I would encourage people to do it, but I'm wanting to know if you think that it's a normal thing.
So I'm glad that you brought that up today because I was thinking about this in the shower this morning when I was thinking about what we're going to talk about and what was going to come up and how you've been as a realtor. And truthfully, working with you and your already the knowledge that you have about mortgages and real estate and stuff like that, it helps so much. I know brokers, sadly, that don't know as much about mortgages as you do. Like you
Oh my God.
you already your brain goes there and you're already thinking about things that a lot of other realtors don't always think about, or they're like, oh, that's not my problem, it's not my thing. But you take responsibility for the full transaction. And so you're thinking about those things and you do it in a way that never feels like you're stepping on my toes as a mortgage broker. When you ask questions or when you're like giving suggestions or thinking about different things, it never feels you're saying, oh, I've done this before and we've done it like this or whatever. Those are words that I've never heard come out of your mouth, but I've heard many other realtors jump to the, I've never had a lender ask for that before, or all of it. So
No.
yeah, I think knowing about mortgages and asking a lot of questions in advance, it helps, again, the client experience. If they're comfortable with you, and that's the other thing too. I like working with realtors who know about their clients, about their a little bit about their financial situation. I don't mean you're not in there knowing their annual income and their debts or things like that, but you when you send a referral over, you might know, okay, they work at the mine or he's a teacher and they have probably about minimum down payment or they're selling their house and they have a lot of equity or something like that. So you're prepared to a certain extent and so you've done like a little bit of your own vetting and then you count on me to do the real like true vetting, but it helps prep me for the discovery call with the client, know what questions to ask and know how to gear the conversation so that they feel comfortable and confident moving forward with us too.
Yeah, I think just having the knowledge around it. Again, I am not a mortgage broker. Like I'm not a mortgage expert. And even when I have conversations with my clients about it, I tell them that. But I also want to have the knowledge around it so that I can direct them where they need to go. I am a huge fan of just like the path of least resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, the more I know, the easier it is going to be for us to get our clients from point A to point B, which is the goal, right? Like their goal is to move. So I'm like,
Yeah.
how can I have enough knowledge and work with you or anybody else in the industry, lawyers, contractors, you name it, where we are all saying the same thing so that we can create a path from point A to point B that is seamless and as stress-free as possible. Because if I have clients that are saying that they want a house with a basement suite and that they need it to be a certain price point or this and then we start looking at houses that aren't falling into the range of what's acceptable for them based off of what they make and their debt and all of that stuff, it's a disaster. So I'm like, I like to gather information so that we can create like a roadmap to get them from point A to point B. And I think that I don't want to waste everybody's time, including theirs.
Exactly. It's for everybody. There's no, I know you, I don't know if you want to say this on here or not, or if you've already talked about it, but Skyleigh has like a unique position on when she starts working with clients where you give them a free pass, like for your first couple of showings. You like to make sure that they get to know you and that they're comfortable with you before you're starting to steer them in a direction. And that works really well for you because you build trust. And then when you refer them to somebody for their financing part, they are more likely to transition into that stage. And if they don't, that they're probably not serious or not doing anything soon. And then in turn, as a mortgage broker, I'm very protective of my realtor partner's time. And that's how I approach the situation when I'm given a referral. So there's that promise to connect with the client within the hour. And if I can't within the hour, just letting you know, I'll chat with them tomorrow or whatever. So setting that expectation and then me following up with the client at regular intervals so that you don't worry if you send a referral to me that I'm going to go to the bottom of all the way through the process. And if we get to the end and nothing's happened, then that's something that we revisit down the road. But yeah, I think so the main goal is to get them on the phone, do the discovery call, and then get an application in and be able to fully underwrite their file so that you're not wasting your time showing them places that are outside of their price range, for example, and that they're not wasting time or seeing something like there's nothing worse than seeing a property that you fall in love with and it's $200,000 outside of your price range. And then all of a sudden you start looking at houses in your price range and they're horrible because you've already seen that $1 million property and it's tough to go backwards. Whereas it's easier to go the other way.
Or even thinking about one of our clients, I won't say her name, but even thinking about one of our clients that we did last year. Was that last year? No, was it then this year? Man, this year's just going by like crazy. But knowing what she qualified for and that if she had a basement suite, she would qualify for more. And then I feel like you'll remember this as soon as we're talking about.
I know who you're talking about. I know the deal you're talking about.
Yeah. So then we saw this house online that it looked like it had the makings of a kitchen downstairs, but it was actually more of just an in-law suite there was no stove.
Yeah.
And then I know from some conversations with you what is needed on the mortgage side of things in order for the lender to say, yes, this qualifies for a suite and we're willing to use X amount of dollars from the suite's rental income to help you qualify, which actually ups the amount that you qualify for. So knowing that and then seeing it already had the sink there with a counter and some like cabinet space.
Yeah.
I saw the electrical panel in the corner and I was like, ooh, I know if we were to run a 220 plug, then the lender and the appraiser who walks through is going to say, yes, this is a suite. And then it upped her qualification. So yeah,
timing of that was amazing and impeccable because had you not known that, or had you thought, oh, it has a kitchen, it'll be fine. And then you write up the offer, I get the deal, I look at the listing and I'm like, uh-oh, this isn't in. And then you hadn't written in what you'd written in, which was to upgrade the amperage and to add the stove. So that all had to be done. I think it was during the subject removal period, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that I wrote
Prior
it in
to.
there saying that for the first 2 weeks of the subject removal window, we would have our financing like conditionally approved based on the 220 plug being added,
Yeah.
and that we would do our home inspection, make sure that was all good. And then once that was good, that the seller had agreed to install the 220 plug, which would like finish our financing. But it was, yeah. And again, without our relationship, I wouldn't have had the tools in my tool belt to pull from in order for that to happen. And then again, you and I even being able to have these conversations was able to reverse engineer and strategically plan for the offer to be written a certain way so that we could actually get it done because
Yeah.
all of the moving parts. So just,
And I want to add to that because
yeah,
I think you're giving me too much credit. I think you knew going into that. I don't think it had anything to do with me. You were ready to go on that file. But if I just want anyone who's listening to this that's a realtor to know that there is another way to do it. This way was awesome because it was only missing a component of the kitchen, and Skyleigh could see that this was a pretty quick fix. Like we could do this and have our financing approved and we'd be okay. If, for example, you had gone into the basement and there was no cabinets and or anything, but you could see that it was a separate entrance and it looked like a suite down there, or it had suite potential. There are lenders that we work with where we can do purchase plus improvements, so it wouldn't need to be done right away. Yeah, so we could do it as a purchase plus improvements, add the suite, and use the suite income to qualify. And then so basically you complete on the purchase, you have the work done to make it suite, but all the while you were qualified using that suite income, even
I
though it
wasn't
wasn't.
sure. I was just going to ask you that. So even though the suite's not installed at time of completion, because you were qualified for the purchase plus improvement mortgage, they're still going to use the rental income to help you qualify?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't realize that. And here's another question, things that you guys need to write down, because these are things that if you have clients that are looking for stuff like this, like it's so important. Will this lender use 50% of the rental income to help them qualify or 100?
So that's a good question, the good ones. So it depends on the suites and like the location. It's tough to say 100% what we're allowed and if it's insured or not insured, but technically, usually with an insured purchase, meaning less than 20% down, we can use 100% add back to income if it is like a legal suite.
I was going to say if it's legal.
Yeah.
Okay. And it
And
depends on
then,
the lender too, right? Because I guess they change their rules and different lenders allow different things, right?
yeah, and sometimes legal means like conforming to the area is mostly allowed, but I'm pretty sure the lender that does the purchase plus improvements with the suite, it would have to be a legal suite. Otherwise, we would only be able to use 50% to add to the income. But if it were legal, so you were going to be adding like separate, what is it, like heat and have its own laundry and that kind of thing, like completely separate unit, then that lender will allow you to do 100% add back. So
I like it. I like
yeah.
the different options and just again solidifying the fact that if you have a relationship with mortgage brokers and other people in the industry, it's going to be a lot easier for you to solve problems for your clients. I think that's one of the bigger things that people don't realize when you're getting into the real estate industry or even mortgage broker world or contractors or whoever, is that your job is to solve problems. If you're not solving the problems for your clients, you're not going to have as large of a client base, because if you can solve their problems, then you're going to be able to help more people and you're going to probably earn those referrals and grow your business significantly faster. Which I wanted to circle back because there was something that you had mentioned and I wrote it down because you were talking about the quote unquote freebies that I do. Because in business as a whole, and even Jamie, you can talk about this with getting into the mortgage broker industry and doing so well your first year, is that we're focused on building a pipeline of clients and that you need the trickle effect coming out the bottom. And when you meet these people, you throw all your leads into the funnel, is what I always like to look at it like. And the funnel at the top is like really big. And you meet all these people, and there's a lot of agents out there. or even mortgage brokers, that they don't want to deal with anybody who is not ready to go. And I think it is a huge hole in the industry for people to only be going after those A and B clients, because there's so many people that want to do something, right? Everybody that you talk to is probably going to be buying and selling real estate one day in the future, right? So even if they say, oh yeah, no, I'm not interested, I'll be like, okay, if you were to do something in the future, what does that look like? Because the likelihood is that in your future, you will probably be doing something. So circling back to the freebies is that I do like to go on exploratory tours where I take people out and look at a number of homes that may or may not fit their criteria so that I can get a really good idea of what they're looking for. But it gives me an opportunity to have a conversation with them, build some trust and rapport so that when I do connect them with somebody in my team, and I know that obviously we're in a different industry, but I do consider you a part of my team and you probably vice versa, because there's core people that you refer business to back and forth, that we can help them create a plan that even if they aren't buying in 30 to 90 days, that we can help them be ready so that they can come out the end of the pipeline in that slow kind of trickle. So even if they do meet with you, for example, and you go through your, what is that thing that you send them? The application. It's not an application. Is it an application? So I know when you go through all of that with them, it unravels what they have going on in their lives, and maybe their credit's not great. Maybe they had a student loan that they thought was paid off that wasn't paid off. That happens. Or maybe they're going through a separation and they need their separation agreement, or they don't have their down payment quite ready yet. Those people, I think you and I are really good at this, which is probably helpful to our business, is that we help them create a plan. So we can help them in the future, because even the girl that we're talking about with the basement suite that we put the 220 plug in for, she was a
like
client
a
of ours
2 year.
for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
3 years. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
She was waiting for her permanent residency.
Yeah.
And then after that, I still it's a scary thing. So
Yeah, there are, and those are like the feel good ones too, right? That was such a nice one for both of us, I think, to
she wouldn't have
like,
bought a home without us.
no, I don't
Like,
think
she
so.
wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that our relationship is one reason that she went through the motions, because there was even a point there where she worked with you for a little bit and then she bounced away for a
Yeah.
bit because she got referred to somebody else through a friend, and then that person dropped the ball, and then I scooched her back to you. But again, like, just even getting having our relationship, and that, yeah, I think that the whole storm only worked out because of like the relationships that we have, and that we were able to actually come up with a plan and not say, okay, you're not ready right now, we're not going to talk to you anymore. There's such a hole in the industry for people
Yeah.
wanting the like fast stuff. So again, I was just like driving home the point of relationship building, being in a relationship industry, having your team of people, again, not even just team like realtor team, if you are a realtor listening to this, but industry team as a whole. Do you have a mortgage broker that you're close with, that you send a lot of business to, where you can ask them a ton of questions so that you can build your own knowledge? Do you have a lawyer that you can ask a bunch of questions to? Do you have a home inspector that you ask questions to? Like, those people can be a part of your team too. And if you have that kind of back and forth relationship.
Yeah. An appraiser is another one that's really helpful, because like I have an appraiser that I can call up anytime and be like, hey, I'm going to need market rents on this place. What do you think? Or are we like, do you think I can use around this or that kind of thing? And then the contractor is another one, somebody that can come in a pinch and write you up a quote for some improvements, because that's the one with the purchase plus improvements that's tough. Is when we submit the application to the lender, we need the quote when we submit it, so we know how much we're adding to the mortgage amount. So without that, we can't really go ahead with it. And so if you show the clients the property, you make the offer, it goes back and forth, and then you don't get anything from the contractor. Let's say a lot of people will plan to get the guy to come in or the girl to come in to do the quote during their home inspection, for example. And then we're already a week into the process now, and I still haven't been able to submit the deal. So it can slow things down, or we might need more time when it's a purchase plus improvements. If the realtor, if your team hasn't come in prepared, so that when you make the offer, you already know what the quote is and you already know how much the improvements are going to be approximately. That would be the way I would approach it if I were a realtor, if I could.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes though, if you don't have the contractors and stuff on a close relationship, it is hard to get them in.
Yeah.
Same with the appraisers. Like sometimes we do purchases in more rural areas and the appraisers only go
Once a week.
once a week. Yeah. So if you don't have that relationship for being like, pretty please.
Yeah.
Like it's tough. Something that I also wanted to touch on with relationships that is not common knowledge for all realtors would be that you have a really great relationship with a handful of the lenders out there where you actually get your own underwriter. And that is something that I don't think a lot of realtors understand either, is that depending on who the mortgage broker is and the volume that they do and the relationships that they are able to sustain within their own backyard is also important, because like now I get to reap the benefit of you being a really good relationship builder as well, because then when we're pushing some files through and it's last minute and I'm like, oh my God, what time is it? Are we able to get this done? Or whoever dropped the ball and you're picking it up for me and you have 24 hours. Now you've just pushed that file through because you actually have the underwriter that is directly connected to you, as opposed to having to go through all the channels again. So if you guys don't have a killer mortgage broker, I'm telling everybody to call you apparently, but if you're not in Alberta or even BC, like people should have that.
I appreciate that. It's so true though. And that's how sometimes realtors like have ended up working with me. Like they're working with someone else. They don't want to work with me. And like I always say, I value loyalty. Obviously, it's important. And so yeah, if you ever need a second opinion, give me a shout. And then the one day comes where they've got that file that they thought was done, subject removals the next day. They're like, can you do it? You get it done. And they're like, okay, I'll work with you now. But yeah, it's the other thing that reminded me of is, not only working with a broker that has like access to all the lenders and then has special access to the lenders is super helpful, like dedicated underwriters, because the way that it works is when we submit an application to a lender, it can go one of two different ways. It can go into an underwriting vat, like a big portal where it gets picked up by random underwriters, and a lot of the lenders, so they pay like a company that just picks it up. And so in that situation, you might get an underwriter that you've never met before, you don't have a relationship with, they're probably going on vacation the next day, and then the file is going to get flipped back to another person who is looking at it with fresh eyes for the first time again. And then you're missing that one document that the client didn't get to, and you submitted it anyway. So like things can really like spiral quickly in the event of that kind of thing. Whereas if you're working with somebody that has, that like a dedicated underwriter, I know their name, they know my name, they know my work, they know how I submit files. So they see, and that's the other thing too, is, you could be working with a client, and I know Skyleigh's, you've been in the industry a long time, so you've come across this where people are like, I'm pre-approved, and you're like, okay, that's great. And then you find out that they got their pre-approval at a big green bank, and what actually happened was that the person went in and got a rate hold, and nobody reviewed their income documents, nobody checked their credit, none of that was done. They just said, you told me that your income's 70,000 and that your down payment is this. This is what you'd be pre-approved for. And off they go, and then they make an offer on a house, and then the person does their actual job finally, and they find out that there's like a car payment that wasn't disclosed, or that the income isn't actually 70,000, it's actually 64,500. So that kind of thing can also happen. So having somebody that's fully underwriting the file is super key. And then we check credit, and it's important because, like you said, like I've seen people who have stuff showing up on their credit bureau that straight up wasn't them. I remember one of my first deals, like pretty early on, I pulled credit, and there was a full credit card that went into, or it was like a money mart kind of thing that had gone into collection.
Yeah.
And so when I was going through credit with a client, I was like, oh, what happened with this? And they're like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. That's wild. I'm like, let's look into this. Let's figure this out. So then that was early on. So I had a mentor at the time. And again, like if you're working with newer brokers, they can be really awesome too, because they should have a mentor, somebody that's like super experienced that can help them answer questions that they don't know the answers to. And it's okay that they don't know right away, as long as they say, I don't know, and I'll get back to you, which I used a lot in the early days. But
I agree.
yeah, so it was funny because everybody that I had asked about it, like experienced brokers, they're like, he knows. He just didn't want to say it in front of his wife or whatever. I was like, no, I really think he seemed. They're like, no, we've seen this a million times. Like he definitely just didn't want to admit it in front of anybody. And I'm like, all right. Anyway, turns out, so I send him to. I have a person that I refer to for like serious credit issues, and realtors can do this too.
Do tell.
I can do a little plug for Richard Moxley. This is Richard Moxley. He used to be a mortgage broker actually, and he wound up working with so many clients that had credit issues and things like that he wound up really liking solving those problems. And he wrote this really great little book that I give out to clients sometimes when they're in that situation, so they can read up on it. And he can also help. The Credit Game, yeah.
Credit Game. And then, sorry, who did you say it was by? I'm just like writing it down.
Richard Moxley. And he has a website. He has a YouTube channel with a lot of really good information on there too. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, that was one of the ones where I reached out to Richard, and we wound up getting it. It was fraud, and we wound up getting it off of that person's credit bureau, and then we were able to proceed with the purchase of the home.
I can't believe you got it off the credit bureau. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's a team effort, and people can get stuff removed from their credit bureau themselves. It can take like a really long time. It's like when you get a TELUS bill and it's like wrong, and it takes you like 3 months to get your money back. It's like that, but worse. So that's where Richard comes in. But as a broker, we have a direct line to Equifax, so I can dispute charges like very quickly. So if something weird comes up, I can, as long as I have proof that it was paid out or whatever it is, I can send that into Equifax and get that removed from their bureau right away.
Interesting. Okay, so you mentioned something that's reminding me of this, which is, for those who do not know, I feel like people can be at all different parts within their business who are listening to this, or if even you're on the consumer side of things. So I think this is a really important distinction, and I would love for you to share what the difference is between a mortgage broker and the bank. And then I will give you my 2 cents as to how I handle clients who are working with, in my opinion, the wrong side. So.
Okay. I would say the biggest difference is the people that work at the bank are mortgage representatives or mortgage specialists, they're mostly called.
Yeah.
And so they are just that. They're specialists in that bank's particular product, and that's it. They have access to, if they work at TD, for example, they do TD mortgages. That's all they do. A mortgage broker has access to multiple lenders, including monoline lenders, which are banks that mono, meaning one, just lend mortgages. So very similar to the banks, except they don't have a brick and mortar place that you can walk into, and they only do mortgages. There's some key differences there when it comes to like prepayment penalties and service and stuff like that. But yeah, and I don't want to misspeak here, but like a lot of mortgage specialists are also selling RSPs and setting up people's bank accounts and doing lots of other things. And they have other jobs and other stresses and pressures on them to do certain things.
There's quotas.
What's that?
Quotas.
Yeah.
If you don't hit your quota, you can get in trouble. But the shitty part is that banks make the most money from consumers the more debt that they're in.
Yeah.
You think that a bank always is there for you. I think we have this skewed perspective as to the purpose of the bank.
Oh, and the relationship with the bank. I get that all the time where it's, oh, I have a really good relationship with my bank, so I think they're going to probably give me a better deal. And it's probably, it really just comes down to their numbers and their spread on their rate sheets, like what's going on with the bond yield, what's not, how many mortgages have they already sold at this price, and how much is that going to cost them, and how much wiggle room do they have left. But that, again, like that's why it's good working with a mortgage broker who has the insight on everything that's going on in the market. And that's not to say there are great mortgage specialists for sure. And I know a lot of mortgage specialists who were converted over to become brokers. And every time I meet somebody at the bank, I was just at BMO the other day, and the guy was helping me open up a high interest savings account. I was like, oh, he said, oh, you're a mortgage broker. I said, yeah. I said, do you do mortgages? And he said, yeah. And I was like, how much do you get paid? He was really great. Come over to the dark side. But yeah, I don't know. It's nerve wracking. But I think that's the other thing too. There's a little bit of cushiness working at the bank that you don't get from brokers. I feel, again, I'm generalizing a little bit, but we're working evenings and weekends for sure.
I think that one of the big distinctions, because there are some big lenders out there or big banks now that do have the mortgage specialists like in-house, but then they also just have the people who would be like advisors working there. But I think the distinction that probably makes the biggest difference is, how do you get paid? Are you paid commission or are you paid salary? Because if you're paid salary, what I have seen and what I've noticed is that they don't care as much, right? Like it doesn't really matter to them. They're going to get paid regardless of your file going through or not. Where if you are based off of commission, like mortgage brokers who are completely third-party mortgage brokers that get to shop the whole industry, not just being a mortgage specialist within the bank. There are some within the banking world. I think RBC is one of them, where they have their mortgage specialists. They get paid commission.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the difference, is if you're commission, whether you're a mortgage specialist within a certain branch or third-party broker industry-wide, you get access. You work significantly harder for your clients when you're commission, and you want what's best for them, and you will put in the energy and the work and make sure that if you're going on holiday, someone's watching your files.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, yeah, like you said, I think there are a lot that are commission based that are working like the extra hours and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's not it. I don't want to come across, if you go to the bank, they're not going to work hard, because that's probably not true. But that being said, if the only way for you, Skyleigh, to get a hold of the person that's helping your client with their mortgage is to call a branch and hit an extension number, like that's going to be really frustrating, because it's going to be hard to get through to them. They're probably booked all day with meetings, and I don't know. It's tough. You have my cell phone number, and you can call me at 10 o'clock at night and be like, oh my gosh, I have subject removal tomorrow and this happened, or whatever. And vice versa. There's been lots of times where I've called Skyleigh and been like, hey, I saw this written on a contract. That seems weird. What do you think? Or that was a big one. And then also getting MLS listings for me for private sales too is a big one. And like pulling title for each other. That, I don't know. There's another Bailey in there. We do this sometimes. She'll be like, I'm on the road, I need a title pulled for this, whatever. Like we assist each other when needed.
No, I love it. And I just wanted to touch base on the part about one of the misconceptions that you hit on as well, is that if you have, I think there are a number of people, it's further away now than it was before. I don't know if a number of people got burned and that maybe word of mouth has gotten around, but it was something that I came across a lot when I first got into the industry, that people did really feel like they had a relationship with their bank because they had been there for so long. And they're like, okay, I've been here for 40 years, so I'm going to go here. And so I even, just a little bit of a backstory, I had one client who had been with TD for 40 years, and we were getting him a mortgage for an investment property. I think you actually ended up saving my file, but
I'm trying to remember this one. Okay.
It was a number of years ago, but I remember him very distinctly being like, I have been a TD customer for 40 years. They're going to do this for me because, again, like loyalty and all the things. And then I think it was like 2 days before subject removal. And I usually fail forward. I had lost a handful of deals in the past because some of my clients had been like, yeah, don't worry about it, I got it. Don't worry about it, I got it. Don't worry about it, I got it. And so I remember very clearly having that same conversation, and I was like, okay. And then I would start asking a few more questions. Asking quality questions is very important. And I remember him being like, oh yeah, no, I haven't heard back, but I'm sure they're working on it in the back end.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like how long has it been since you've heard back? And then he's like, oh, like 7 days. And I'm like, we have 14 days, including weekends, for our subject removals. We're running out of time. And he was like, okay, I'll make a couple extra calls. Turns out the girl that was helping him went on holiday, didn't tell anyone that he had a file sitting there, and nobody had touched it. So anyways, we were like really running out of time by the time they turned around and said, oh yeah, no one's worked on this and we're going to need another 2-week extension. And depending on how the market is, I can't always get you an extension. It's not, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You would think that the relationship would change things, but it doesn't. Even for me, I had 3 mortgages at Scotiabank and a number of lines of credit, and going through my separation, they don't care. I'm like, the amount of money you've made off of me, and you can't try and cut me a break just to help me organize my life. And they're like, no, we can't. We need the other signature. It doesn't matter.
It's a numbers game.
There's cut and dry rules that they have to follow, which I can respect as well. It's not always a relationship thing. This is just one of those things. So I really strongly believe that people should be working with a mortgage broker, because
it doesn't cost money. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I've had a number of people burned. Yeah, you go.
Now I can't remember because I'm so distraught that I just interrupted you so badly. Oh, what was I going to say? It's gone. It's totally gone. Oh, I was going to ask you a question.
Yes.
I was going to ask you a question. I'm always curious about this, like from my little end. Why isn't it normalized for people, if you have listings, for example, and you've got realtors showing your client's place, like, and you don't know them and whatever, and like, why isn't it normalized for people to have to show that they have a pre-approval in place before they show homes? Or do any of your sellers ever request that? Or is that like too much or too weird? I've just seen so many, like, I know that we work in a small area, like a lot of people, when you know their style and stuff, need would trust, right? That, oh yeah, they're showing this place, that their buyer's pre-approved or whatever. And then, yeah. So what do you do in that kind of situation? And like, how do sellers feel about that, not knowing? And I guess, because it's just like a lot of work for them to get the house cleaned and like kids out the door and dog sitter or whatever it is. And then they leave and then an offer comes in and the person's not even approved and they've just wasted everybody's time.
Yeah. I don't know exactly like industry wise why it's not. I think that unless the governing body decided to implement a specific rule around it, the industry operates in a way that you have to follow the herd. So everyone would have to be on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
In order for it to actually work, again, unless like consumer protection, like BCFSA decided, hey, we're going to implement a rule where people actually have to provide a pre-approval letter or a letter from a mortgage broker saying that they've actually looked at the file, regardless of actually having a solid pre-approval letter in place. Okay. But that being said, just thinking about the industry as like a whole, you would have to have everybody on the same page. Because let's say, for example, I decided, hey, you're not showing my listing unless you have this letter, and I'm the only one doing it, then I unfortunately would probably be hurting my client, because if I don't get people through the house, now the price point goes down, because there's only 3 reasons like a house won't sell. Number 1 is that it's not marketed well, pictures look terrible, and it's not advertised. 2 would be that you can't get access to it. So let's say, for example, there's a tenant in there and they won't let you in. And 3 would be the price point. So let's say, for example, I have really good marketing and it's advertised everywhere. And then I also have the price point like nail on the head. Unless the market is absolutely crazy, nobody's going to buy it without actually having access to go into it. And if I'm going to make them jump through a hoop and have a pre-approval letter before I let them in, the likelihood is that they'll be like, I'll just go look at the other 3 or 4 that are on the market first. And then if those ones don't work out, then I'll go to that one. But then what if they really like one of those ones and I just lost that client?
Especially in a buyer's market. Yeah. It
Yeah,
might be just like, yeah, the cost of doing business, like the cost of selling your house is that sometimes,
I think it would have to be an
unfortunately,
industry standard in order
yeah,
for it to happen, because if one person or a handful of people want to do it, people again take the path of least resistance. So then they'll be like, oh, whatever, I just won't look at it. And then they're not gonna
yeah,
buy it. And then now all of a sudden the equity within that house is being depleted because the likelihood of it actually selling is slim, and the more days on market, everything on the market has a history. People are wondering why it didn't sell. There's like a stigma now. Like it's just like this perfect storm of people losing money if they don't allow access. So there are people who will say you need to have your pre-approval and stuff, which would be in those larger price points. If you're in the million plus
yeah,
range, right? Like you want to make sure that the people coming through are qualified, right? Like you don't want people coming through your house and snooping around and then them
yeah.
not actually having, you don't need them coming looking for decoration ideas.
I do. Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, in those upper price points, I think it's more acceptable. And I think that even people who are qualifying for those upper price limits would respect it because they're like, yeah, I get it. I don't want that at my house either. That being said, though, something that I will say, just even from my own experience and just like from a coaching perspective, if you are an agent representing a seller and you have an offer that comes in, it is your job to vet that person. I understand that you're not representing the buyer at that point, you are representing the seller. But if you're representing the seller, then you bet your butt you better be asking for a pre-approval email or whatever from the buyer's representative saying that person's qualified. Because what I just said is that the more days on market, the less likely it is that you're going to get close to list price. So if you accept an offer from somebody who's not qualified because the agent didn't do their due diligence, and now you tie up a property for 14 days,
Or worse, seen worse.
what are you doing?
Recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So your
yeah,
job as like a representative for a seller, yes, unfortunately you had to open the door and let them through, but don't accept an offer from somebody and tie up the property so that nobody else really wants to look at it or write an offer on it for 14 plus days if the buyer's representative isn't able to get you a letter saying, hey, yeah, while we don't have a solid pre-approval in place, I did check their income, I did check their credit rating, everything looks good. The lender just has to approve the property itself.
yeah. That's like almost word for word my letter.
Hmm.
You're smart cookie, Skyleigh, but yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
It.
that is another good thing to note. And I wish that all realtors knew this, that when we get even like the pre-approval, and most clients understand this, but there's the odd one that doesn't understand that a pre-approval doesn't mean like you can go in without a financing condition,
No,
because
disaster.
we, yeah, the lender still needs to approve the house. That's really important. And then the other thing that, and again, like if it's insured, the insurers might have to approve, the insurers have to underwrite the file, the lender has to approve the file. There's still a lot. That's why, again, it's good to work with somebody that does like a lot of due diligence up front so that it really avoids surprises down the road. I can't think of, knock on wood, any of our deals that have come apart like ever due to financing because I missed something in the underwriting in the begining.
Yeah, no.
I don't think it's ever happened to me yet. But now I'm
I was gonna say, where's all
just fully cut that
where's the wood?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The one that I wish everybody knew about is, and this is like a general guideline that I say to all realtors, is that a lot of clients like to do the home inspection last. They don't want to spend the $600 on the home inspection until they know that the financing is good, that they can get insurance, blah, blah, blah. Fine, fair. But if your home inspection is 2 days before subject removal, and then you go back and you renegotiate the purchase price on that subject removal day, and you get a price reduction of like $15,000, $20,000, and the clients are happy and the realtor's happy, and they're like, there you go, there's your subject removal. And oh, by the way, here's the waiver also, because we've removed all the subjects at the same time.
No.
And that one scares me a lot because, again, knock on wood, it's been okay so far. But when there's any material change to the contract, the lender has to approve it. So if there's a ginormous price reduction on a $400,000 property and we just knocked off 20K, the first thing that they're going to say is, okay, what's this about? What's wrong with the house? And some realtors will go ahead and write in the amendment like, oh, due to cracked foundation or things that came up during home inspection or something like that. And then that opens up the door to the lenders being able to request the home inspection. And then the whole deal could fall apart. And if you just went ahead and saved yourself some time by adding the waiver to DocuSign while you had them sign the amendment, that's really dangerous. So I just usually if it's like $5,000, if $2,500, $5,000, and you just do the amendment and just put the price change and let your broker deal with the reasoning behind it, so that if somebody asks, I can say, oh, it was like the garage door opener or whatever. Then that's good. But yeah, just something to be cognizant of for sure. Just
I almost messed up a deal when I first started. And it was because of that. I had no idea that I was like, oh, they were approved for, let's just use easy numbers. They were approved for 500,000.
Yeah.
So then when you reduce the price to 400 and original accepted offers 480, and then you drop it down to 470, I'm like, why would it need to go for reapproval again? They were approved to 500.
That's a good deal. Yeah.
Okay, what's the issue? Yeah. But then it was a foundation thing. And then it also had rodents, I think, in the attic. And that's not great. And I think a lot of times people forget the fact that a bank, while they are lending you money, this is also an investment for them. They want to make sure that their investment is a solid investment. If it's not a solid investment, they're not going to lend you money. Yeah. So I almost got burned by that in the beginning. And now, even to this day, I make a phone call before, because when we're strategically planning after we've had a home inspection, number one, I try and get the price down to an acceptable range based off of what I can see with the naked eye and what we've like visually seen when we're there, and agree that this is the price points for what we have to do for that stuff. Accepted offer price is reflective of that. And then you do your home inspection, and there's things that you find that you didn't notice due to reasonable inspection. That's the stuff you renegotiate. But I always pick up the phone and say, hey, is this going to be an issue? Or how do you want me to write this in the contract? Or if we can get the seller to fix this thing for this amount of money, which buffers this much, can we reduce by this much? There's just strategy.
There is strategy. And like I've seen, and again, if it's a major issue, we can do it as a purchase plus improvements maybe. But again, we need time to do that. So you might need to get an extension, we might need to get a quote, stuff like that. So there's ways to save deals, but again, it's just having that communication. And I don't know, like when you're working with other brokers or bank reps or whatever, if you like, do you always call them or do you just take your client's word for it? Because I would say as a mortgage broker, don't just take your client's word for it. If they say, yeah, we're good to remove subjects, because try as we may to convey clearly everything at every different stage of this process, sometimes people forget or they misunderstand, or it's a stressful time and they mistake a pre-approval for this, or like a conditional commitment for a full commitment. So it's easy for people to get confused. So if I were a realtor, I would always want to be err on the side of caution. Doesn't hurt to pick up the phone and call the broker or text the broker or person and just say, hey, client said we're good to remove subjects. Are we indeed good to remove subjects?
Blink twice.
Exactly.
There's such a weird tug of war with that sometimes. And what I was saying earlier, I was like, I'm going to tell you a story as to why I scooch people over to brokers. And this is one of the reasons that I scooch people to my team, because I have had it in the past where I realize that there is confidentiality between the mortgage broker and their client, and then even like the realtor and the client. So there's this triangle of like information. But if anybody has ever played the game telephone, it can be changed as it's going through the telephone line. And so I've had it in the past where I'm trying to connect with the broker or the bank or whoever, and they won't talk to me.
Yeah.
And it's, oh, this confidential and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I understand that. And I don't need you to tell me how much money they have in their bank account. I don't need you to tell me all of these things. But I do need us to be a team so that we can protect our clients so they don't get sued.
Yes, and you and I have had conversations about this too, because
Yeah.
it is touchy and it's tricky, and especially we work together and people know that we work together. So the last thing we want is our clients thinking that means that I share everything with you, because it doesn't,
It does
and
not.
vice versa. And it's tough because I've had this conversation with Skyleigh where I say, it's not my choice to say they're okay to remove subjects. Like they could be okay for financing, but that's not my call. Like it's their decision if they want to remove their subjects, not mine. I can tell them that their financing looks good,
Yeah.
but I can't tell a realtor, yeah, they're good to remove subjects kind of thing. I could say they have their financing in order if I have permission. And so that's part of my discovery call, the
Yes.
initial call that I have with people. It is a question that is on my form that I ask every single time, and that is, are you working with a realtor? And if so, how am I allowed to share information with your realtor? Are you comfortable with that? Because it's important for us to all have a good
Yes.
communication. That being said, I will never share anything confidential about your particular income, credit, whatever
Yeah.
situation, or anything else that you explicitly don't want me to share. And there's only been a couple of times where they've said, no, I don't want you to talk to the realtor at all. And I'm like, okay, respectful of that's fine. And
I think that the
then
conversation is just the important piece to have, right? I think that there's a handful of people out there that I run into that they don't even have the conversation, or they
yeah,
say
I
that
can't.
it's not advisable to share it with your realtor. Even on the home inspection side, I've had a home inspector that I don't do business with really anymore because he does have a third party waiver signature for receiving the inspection, and he always advises them to say no, don't put your realtor down. But I'm like, how am I supposed to negotiate more money off the purchase price for you if I am not privy to the information? And I'm like, we're on the same team, right? The goal is to help our clients get from point A to point
Yeah.
B. And like I said, represent them properly, make sure they don't get sued. There is an area of confidentiality. It's like, I don't need to know all of that stuff. But for us to be able to work together and be like, yes, we have approval in place, they're good to go, and that they've given you consent to share that with me so that we can make sure we're good, I think is
Yeah.
a really important aspect to it. Because just backstory, I think you actually saved this file for me, which was an older couple that I had who they were working with Manulife. And I remember when I was trying to get them to work with you right off the bat, and they're like, oh, we already have our rep with Manulife, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, like Jamie has access to Manulife, so like you might as well just go with her anyway because she has access to it regardless. And they're like, oh yeah, but we've already submitted our paperwork to the rep and blah blah blah. So they were going with them, and I was like, okay, sounds good. So we're moving forward with the process, and we get to a certain point where they're like, yeah, we're good to go. And I don't know why, but I just had this like weird feeling, and I was like, do you mind if you share with me your commitment letter? And they shared with me the commitment letter. And I was like, we're not good to remove subjects. I was like, you have to have your house, you have to sell your house. And they're like, we have to sell our house? Like, why? And I was like, I don't know why. I was like, we weren't supposed to. They were supposed to approve you to buy this house without selling your house. I don't know. Because their place wasn't even on the market.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be buying, like their older couple was buying the house with their daughter and her husband
Yes, I remember them. Yeah.
town, and they were keeping their place for a little while and then going to be selling it after they renovated it. They were able to carry both mortgages, but for some
Yes.
reason the person who was doing the mortgage, I don't know if it was a miscommunication between them or what, but yeah, in that document, in the conditional approval letter, it said based off you selling your home at blah blah blah. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so glad that I read that. But you, I think whirlwind turned it around. I was in an airport. The moment you called me, I was just about to board a flight to a conference or something like that. And I was like, I cannot believe that this just turned around. But yeah, like the communication is important because I'm like, I can't imagine, like, what would have happened if I removed the subjects for them and they didn't have their mortgage to go through? Like, that would
I
have
know.
been an
It's
awful
terrifying.
feeling.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And yeah, I like working with you because I know that you're at the end of the day, like you have the client's best interest at heart. It seems like such a no-brainer, but I don't know what it is. But some people are just not thinking, and it's not inconsequential. Like it affects you too as a realtor. And I don't know, there's like a part missing in some people, that like that recognition of, oh, this impacts me too. Like I could get in trouble for this too. Like everybody just needs to do their due diligence.
Not
I don't know. I'm a super careful. Yeah, we're friends, so you know that I'm like the type of person that I am. But we always joke, and I think you would rather have that type of person doing mortgages, like, than somebody that's kind of, it'll be fine. I'll probably be okay. It's nice to hear those things, but it's, I just tell the truth and tell it like it is. And if there's going to be complications, I like to let you know. That's the other thing too. Like, pretty quickly early on, I'm not going to hide from you like some struggles or whatever that we're having. If I have consent from the clients, we're able to communicate. And obviously, I've sometimes communicated with the client depending on whatever the situation is, because sometimes, again, we're trying to protect them from the stress of anything that's going on behind the scenes, as you would. But yeah, so if I'm thinking, oh, the clients chose this particular, in my head, I'm like, okay, the clients chose this particular lender. I know for a fact that they went with them because they've got the best rate, but they've got the slowest turnaround time right now. They were missing this stock, or we were waiting for this, and I didn't. So I already know subject removal isn't for another 7 business days, but I just know, okay, let Skyleigh know everything's submitted, but we're probably looking at like day of kind of thing. So you're aware of it. And then I let you deal with that. Like, you do with the information what you will. Most of the time I tell you stuff early on, and you decide strategically that you're not going to bring it up yet at that point.
like sometimes where I'm like, I'm not doing anything with that right now.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's
I like to give you that opportunity to,
yeah,
because that's your job. Like, you're negotiating, you're dealing with a listing agent or whatever, and you know them and how to get what you need. I feel comfortable communicating to you where we're at so that you be prepared to handle it however you do.
However I do. Yeah, sometimes a few pieces of strategy information for everybody listening. What we're talking about right now is sometimes the lender will be giving signs that they need an extension, probably like a week in advance. I do not grant extensions a week in advance typically, and this might not work for everyone, so please don't implement anything like this just on a whim. However, a lot of times I don't request extensions a week in advance because I know that a lot of times the lenders will take all the time that they have. And I don't usually write 3-week subject removals into my contracts because I know that the more time you give them, they will take every last inch of it. So I'd rather wait until crunch time, and everybody knows on the back end. It's not like I'm withholding this information. My clients know that it's probably a thing, and the buyer or seller, whoever I'm dealing with on the opposite side, probably knows it's a thing. But we're waiting because I know that the lender is probably going to use every last minute that they have. So I'm like, I want them to feel pressure that their deal is going to fall apart. Not my clients or anything, but on the lending side, because I don't want them to be like, oh, I have enough time. And then I want them to feel like they have to put out a fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing that I definitely do, or that we just make sure everyone has an expectation on my side that we're probably going to be getting an extension, but I just don't want the lender to know that it's a possibility.
That's fair.
So anyways, funny strategy.
There was another thing that I was thinking that I wanted to say, and that's the deposit. I think that's a good one that mortgage brokers and realtors can both be better at, and that is making sure that you understand where the deposit is coming from for your client and what the timing of the deposit is. I know you usually like to do after subject removal, which we love to see, because it doesn't complicate the financing end of things at all. But then, yeah, it's important to know. And I guess this probably is more of a mortgage broker thing, to be honest, deflecting it onto realtors to know this also. But if there's the odd client that has, and again, if they haven't been pre-approved properly or whatever, they've got RRSPs, but they're vested in their company. So that's one that I always look out for. So they send you their RSP statement, and you just always want to make sure if it's a company one, it's likely that it's vested, meaning that it's locked in until they retire. So they can't really even access that money. So there's nothing we can do to that. And then there's some online RSP programs, like I think Tangerine is one where it's come up before, where because it doesn't have a place that can do a bank draft, they have to mail the bank draft or transfer it to another account, and then you get the bank draft from there, but it can take time. So just things to be aware of when you are working with somebody with a deposit, if their like funds are coming from somewhere that they have quick access to or not.
No, I agree. And then there's a few things that I put stars on my notes that I want to bring up as well. But before I bring those up and ask you those questions, I just want to set the expectation that while we're going to be giving you guys this information, and I think it is really great information, wherever you are listening to this, just verify with mortgage brokers in your area or verify with like your broker for your brokerage, because obviously depending where you are, things can be a little bit different. Number one that I wanted to ask you is down payment amounts. This is an important thing that consumers and realtors should know. So how much money do you need down for you to buy a principal residence? And we're going to obviously say this is like BC specific, just so that there's no miscommunication around it, but BC specific.
So minimum down is 5% on the first 500,000, 10% on the amount above that. And then now we have the extended rules. And then the other thing is that a lot of people don't know, they think that they can only do minimum down on their very first home that they buy, but you can do an insured purchase on your primary residence as many times as you want to. So
that is definitely something that I have heard a number of times. So that is how I accumulated a number of investment properties, is that I bought the first one 5% down and then bought another one with 5% down, and then moved again and did 5% down. Because otherwise, if you're wanting to have investment properties, you're 20% down right off the bat, right, Jamie? So I think that is an important piece of information that a number of people aren't sure about. And then even too, just kind of going back a little bit, is that you can refinance your house as well to pull money out of that in order for you to have a down payment for another one as well. Whether you want to live in the current house that you're in, refinance that one and put 20% down into an investment property, or refinance that one and move again and put 5% down into the next one. So I think the down payment one is a conversation that a lot of people aren't sure about. So I wanted to touch on that. Other one is, what are some things, Jamie, that are terrible things to write in your MLS listing description? Go.
Oh, handyman special, hobby farm,
fixer-upper.
Yeah, fixer-upper. What else? Oh my gosh.
Those are the ones. Hobby farm is the one that I was also thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess also just I don't know. I know you have to be realistic on the MLS listings, and that's important. But a lot of people, I find we've run into this before, where they won't put that there's a suite when there's a suite, right? I don't understand what the problem was on that one either. They were worried about the city coming after them because maybe it was a new build, remember? So maybe they didn't get, I don't know what the deal was. That was really weird, I thought. But you could say in-law suite is fine. But for most lenders, like for me, I would rather it just say, exactly what it is that we're looking for. So like a separate unit with a kitchen downstairs or with its own entrance, something like that, instead of saying in-law suite or whatever, because then there's no question that it's got the things.
And even thinking about that too, is that if you want to use, there's two things actually that I'm thinking about. Number one, if you want to use the kitchen to help you qualify, or like the suite to help you qualify for the mortgage, you're going to have measurements for a kitchen in the actual like MLS. Like I know that there's been a handful of scenarios where I've had to ask the listing agent to rewrite the MLS. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm
Oh,
bringing
yeah.
this up, is that I'm like, hey, can you redo the MLS and take out the fact that you're saying hobby farm, or rewrite the MLS and add the kitchen because it has a kitchen downstairs? I don't know why it's not advertised, but everything is supply and demand. If people can qualify for more money for a house with a basement suite, why are you not advertising that? Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, that means your seller should be getting more money because people can qualify for more, and there's going to be a larger buyer pool of people wanting houses with suites. It
And
just doesn't like make sense to me. I don't know, but
yeah, and do yourself a favor too, and go ahead and talk to your appraiser friends and or your project manager friend, and get an estimate on what you think that the place could rent out for, and be realistic, and then put that in there too. Like it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't hurt.
the last one that I was thinking was a fun extra piece of information that I feel like not everybody knows about is the borrowing the deposit.
Oh yeah,
There's something that happens, and it happens quite often, but usually I have conversations about it in advance enough that people can figure it out. But you need a deposit for when you remove subjects, and that deposit goes towards your down payment. But a lot of times people's deposits are tied up in their investments, which sometimes people don't have TFSAs or RSPs. All of their money is tied up in their investment of their house, the one that they're selling in order to buy the next one. So they
yeah.
don't have $5,000 to $10,000 sitting around easily accessible. So you had a trick for this, and I think that it is also a fun little problem solving thing that we should share.
Yeah, that's true. There is a couple lenders that do deposit loans, and it's super quick and easy. And yeah, they just do it based off the paperwork that you have on the sale of your home and your stuff. And we've gotten that done really quickly a couple of times. No problem at all. The other one that reminded me of is another trick up my sleeve is I've got a guy that does car refinancing.
Right.
Um,
I forgot about
and
this one.
yeah, and
This is
so we've saved a lot of deals doing this. I've even saved people deals on deals that I wasn't even brokering on. If you were working with another, it might have even happened to us before, where you're working on a deal and like somebody the financing just couldn't come through, and you're like, can you just have a look at it? And they already have sudden removals the next day, and they already have a partial pre-approval. We don't have time to start all over again. So I just like help the client by getting rid of their car payment or something like that. And but yeah, so there's a couple of different things we can do with that. This one I don't love doing, but we can fully transfer the car into a family member's name. So it's like completely gone, and that family member takes over the car payment, and then it's not showing on their credit bureau anymore. So that is one method. And then the other one, which is the one that I would typically use, is just to refinance it, so to get the payment lower. So sometimes if somebody's got an old car payment and it's like $1,000 a month, we can get it down to $650, and then our ratios, like suddenly things work again if it's a really tight deal. And then I've also had it before where the client didn't have enough for down payment, but they had a fully paid off vehicle or boat, and we can actually finance that asset, pull the money out. Of course, these are not like ideal situations. Like these are not plan A type things, obviously. When push comes to shove and like you're already in it and this is kind of what's happening, then these are some of the solutions that we can come up with to try to help make things happen. So yeah.
I like solutions.
Oh, the other one, like instead of bridge financing, there's a way there's a way, depending on the equity situation and the income situation, that we could just like basically take out a home equity line of credit on the current home and use that for the purchase, and then pay that out instead of doing a bridge, which can sometimes be more expensive. Yeah. And then there's private bridge situations too, which I don't like doing these, but because you can't do bridge financing if you don't have a firm sale on your property that you're
Right.
selling.
Which is scary, because then you're like, you have bridge financing. For those of you guys who do not know what bridge financing is, when you need to close on a property before your house is actually sold. So there's like a gap of time where your house is not fully sold yet. You don't have the money in your bank account from the sale of your house, but you're still purchasing that new one. And so bridge is when the bank lends you the money to have
Yeah.
both essentially until your place closes. But the scary part about that is that like you said, you need to have your place fully sold before they'll approve you for the bridge. So your dates don't line up in advance. And if the seller won't adjust dates, if your bridge doesn't come through, I'm like, oh, I've never had it not go through, but still, Jamie, like,
Yeah.
how do you?
Or the biggest I don't usually I don't like to do bridges on purpose. I usually like it when, I mean, we all do. We like it when things line up, and I don't love it when a realtor or a client comes to me and they're like, oh, we'll just do a bridge. It's no big deal. And I'm like, can we just try to not first though? Because it's going to be expensive. And then the other thing, oh, and this doesn't solve the problem either way, but I have had deals, and it's always, sorry, Alberta, but it's always when people are moving from Alberta to here, where this has happened twice, where the sale didn't complete on sale day.
Mm.
And then we had to do like an emergency bridge in the last minute because everything was happening on the same day. It worked out. It was fine. And I've done another mortgage for those guys too, so that they're good. They own 2 properties now. But
I've always been told that
yeah,
if you're closing in Alberta though and moving here, or like to not close on the same day. So maybe
yeah,
that's the trick, because that's what I do, is because that was what I was advised to do, because the way that they do stuff in Alberta is a little bit different than here. So
yeah,
I always close on a different day, because
yeah.
trying to do same day, it seems to be a weird domino effect. So it's
That's
interesting
really
to
good
hear that
advice.
happens to you.
Yeah. And then there is one lender that where we can do a bridge financing without a firm sale on their house. But it is super expensive. But again, like, it's a good solution, and some people have the means to do it and they don't care. They're just like, whatever, I don't care. I just want to be able to do it. In those cases, we need to get an appraisal on the current property. We need a full appraisal on the new property. And then the interest rate is usually over 7% interest only type payments. But you're taking a big risk then, though, because if you don't even have an offer on your place yet, who knows? It could be like months or years, God forbid. But it's a risk. So something that, like, it is an option. And in an emergency or in a situation where people just have to have the house and they have to do it, it's something we can do. But I have had multiple times where people have been in that situation. I've gone through the financing option for that private bridge, and they're just like, no, I don't, because of the sheer expense of it. But
Yeah. Something that you just reminded me of, which I've had a few clients do as well. And I don't know if it's as important of a thing for us to mention now, just because the market is a bit cooler and we are seeing subject to sales, but something that I don't know if you've had a lot of experience with or not, is when people have a mostly or fully paid off house and they're wanting to move,
yeah,
and that they would refinance and get a line of credit on their current house so that they can shop for a new house and pull from the line of credit in order to purchase the next one, especially if you're going from, let's say, from the lower mainland,
yeah,
massive equity in this house, and you're downsizing into something in Kamloops, for example, or Vernon
yep,
or whatever, and that you're buying a $300,000 or $400,000 condo, but you have a multi-million-dollar house in the lower mainland. So like the numbers obviously have to make sense, but I have had people do that as well, which is amazing, that you can go to someone like you and say, hey, I want to be able to open up
yeah,
availability within this property so that if I buy another place, I don't have to do a subject to sale to buy it, because you can lose the house you're buying if you do that
yeah.
to somebody else if you don't have an offer on yours back home. But that, I think, is also a really cool option. Again, I don't know if it's as important now, but
Yeah, it is. That would be the first strategy that we would check before doing a bridge. And then the last option would be the private bridge. So it would be first using your current equity. If we have enough to like fully purchase the place, then that's great. And the other thing too is like setting it up as a home equity line of credit instead of refinancing it as a mortgage is the best, because if you refinance it as a, yeah, because if you refinance it as a mortgage, then you've got your principal and interest payments. They start happening right away, even though you might not be purchasing that place yet, or might not have even found the place yet. So,
yeah,
and may not have closed on the place yet. So you already have borrowed the money and you're paying interest on it like right away. Whereas if you set up a home equity line of credit, it's there and it doesn't cost you anything until you actually use it. And then when you do use it, it's interest only typically. And the rate is lower than a bridge financing rate too, because it's usually prime plus 0.5 for a home equity line of credit. It's kind of like the standard. So yeah, but it's tougher to qualify on a home equity line of credit because we're qualifying people at the contract rate plus 2%, around 4 point whatever percent plus 2, so around 6%. But if the home equity line of credit is prime plus 0.5, then we're qualifying at 545 plus 2.
A little bit
745. Yeah, so it is tougher. And then you can only borrow up to 65% of the equity in a home equity line of credit. So that's another kind of like limitation. So it may or may not be enough to cover the full amount, but yeah.
Right. But I still like that there's all these options for people, which is very helpful. Okay, where to find my lovely Jamie would be mortgagesbyjamie.com. Instagram, Mortgages by Jamie. Again, look at you just being cohesive with your brand. Okay. And Facebook, Jamie Ushko. Is it Dash Mortgage Broker? Is that it? That's easy.
I don't even know.
I think that it is. Yeah.
Right. I don't even think. Yeah. That sounds good.
I like the cohesive branding. It's great. So yeah, if you guys are buying or selling consumer wise, or if you are a realtor and you need a amazing mortgage broker in your back pocket, I'm telling you guys, reach out to Jamie. See all the solutions that she has. I think that you won't be disappointed. Like I love you. I love you. I love you. So I'm very happy that you came and hung out with me today. And yeah, I think that this information is super important and that people should.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap on this episode of Real Estate Real Talk. Whether you're an agent building your business or a buyer or seller trying to get the real story, thanks for being here. If this episode gave you clarity, confidence, or just something to talk about, I'd love for you to follow, rate, and share the show. It helps more people find these conversations. If you have questions or want to connect, head over to SkyleighMcCallum.com or come hang out with me on Instagram. Thanks for listening, and I hope you catch the next episode on Real Estate Real Talk.